Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at Wagertalk.com, and all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for Overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.
Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on SportsMemo.com, at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Tony Finn from Wagertalk.com today to break down 3 games from today's NBA slate. But before we get into those games, I do want to talk about one of the promos we got going on over at SportsMemo.com, also Wagertalk.com. The March Madness Bonanza Special. There's still a lot of college basketball left to go, and to get the remainder of the college basketball season from your favorite cappers over at SportsMemo and Wagertalk, $149 each through the national championship game. There's no coupon needed for this one. Once again, that's $149 for the remainder of the college basketball season. That includes all the tournaments, the playoffs, through the national championship game. Head over to sportsmemo.com, wagertalk.com. Utilize the live odds pages on both sites. They also provide free analysis and picks on a daily basis. And also, there's always picks and packages and promos from random cappers through the sites. They all have their own promotions going on. Some people have specific NBA, specific soccer packages. So head over to the sites after the show. Also, before you go, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. It does only take a couple clicks, and it helps our show grow tremendously. With that said, let's get Tony in here in the panel with me. Tony, man, we like to start the show off pretty transparent here. So I like to start off first. Yesterday, I had a rough day, went 1-3. I was telling, our producer in the back before the show, yesterday was the third time in 5 days that I had an under game go into overtime and go over in overtime. So it stayed under in regulation, then goes in overtime. It's really one of those things that's tough to deal with. And Tony, you've been in the business longer than I have, and you have a lot of great experience. But I want to ask you a question about, how do you deal with like runs like this when you go in bad streaks like this, where you really feel like you had the right side, then little things happen and it ends up going the wrong way.
How do I? Well, I feel many different ways, Ronald. You feel first off, one of the things that you learn to do, at least I have, and most that have been doing this as long as I have, is you have a short memory. You can. There's going to be. You want to believe everything that goes around comes around, but as you just mentioned, it seems like we'll remember the close ones, or the inch games, or the game of inches that we lost. We rarely talk about the ones we win like that. But my last month's been very similar to that as well. I probably have lost 10 games by 1 bucket. And some of those have been basically garbage time buckets, where somebody hit a 35-foot 3-pointer in the NBA that cost me the over. I had the over in Phoenix the last game 2 nights ago. Phoenix, I think the total I had was 234, and there was a minute and a half to go, and they had 233 points.
233, yeah, I remember that one.
Did not score again. I mean, when it had a minute and a half to go, I said, I put it aside, started working on something else, stopped watching. And when I looked up the final score, I said, "It's a mistake. It's got to be a mistake, right?" No, it happens. And, I like I said, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I've had a few of those as well. So I'm with you. So we can both kind of, we can feel sorry for ourselves this episode and cry a little bit, right?
Yeah, but you know what, Tony, this is your first show with us on the Triple Double. Yeah. I'm excited to have a lot of the Wager Talk folks come over and do the show with us. And, let's get started, actually. The first game up here is the Hawks versus the Wizards. These two teams faced each other once on Wednesday. The Hawks won that first matchup. The Wizards come through with a backdoor cover on the three-pointer from Porzingis at the buzzer. The Hawks, this is the last of a 4-game road trip for them. Also, the first leg of back-to-back games where they have the Celtics on deck tomorrow at home. So there's even travel included in that back-to-back. The Wizards, this is the last of a 2-game homestand for them before they have a one-off road game versus the Sixers on Sunday. No key injuries of note to mention for either team. From a season perspective or the matchup perspective, they split the season series so far 1-1, but the Wizards have covered both games and both games have gone over. Tony, what is your thought on this game here? Are you thinking that we get another over after the last two matchups between them go over, or they have a tough schedule coming up here and maybe a look ahead and they struggle offensively? What are your thoughts?
I'm not huge on look aheads or let's say rivalries in the NBA. They exist. They do. The media and the talking heads from the major portals will really focus on those things and play them up more than I think happens on the professional end. Sure, there's rivalries. There's games inside the game in the NBA, much more so than college. But I think emotionally, college is a much more emotional game than the NBA. And until you get into the last month, 2 months of the season, when things are a little more serious, scores a little tighter, maybe scores a little lower. The officials let them play. But tonight, I believe that you're going to see much of the same that you saw from this game the last 2 times these two played, and that wasn't very long ago, right? You just mentioned it. Porzingis not only hit the game winner, but the kid is having a pretty good month too.
Yeah, so I think for me, both of the matchups, like I said, they were pretty tight earlier this season. They both decided by 3 points or less. Seems like they just match up well against each other. Like you said, too, Porzingis was out for a little bit and came back, and he's playing really well right now. Atlanta, they really haven't been that team to cover consistently in road favorite situations. They're just 3-8 against the spread in that spot this season. I just think this is not a good situation here for the Hawks, who are on the first leg of back-to-back game. Also, that travel spot, like I mentioned, it's back-to-back, but also road to home, so they got to travel and see the Celtics tomorrow. The last time they've had a back-to-back and also traveled in that situation, road to home, they lost to the Pacers of all teams in that game. The Pacers were on the second leg of back-to-back games, so the Hawks were more rested. They lost 129-114. So I'm not saying that they're going to lose by that much. I think it's still going to be a tight game, but the line is saying that we're really looking to see who's just going to win this game here. And I think that might be the Wizards tonight. Monte Morris this is his second game back off of that layoff of the injury. So hopefully he got his legs back under him, but I think they get a little bit of revenge and get that win today. Tony, any last words before we move on to the next game here?
Well, we'll talk a little more about this in the best bet segment because I do have a player prop from this game that I like. And again, we'll review this and revisit it at the end of the show.
Love it. All right, so let's move on to this next one. Another game where they just played on Wednesday, the Cavs and the Heat. Cavs on a nice 3-game winning streak after they beat them on the Heat on Wednesday, 104-100. This is the second of a 4-game road trip for them. No travel involved since they played. This is their second game in Miami. The Heat are just 3-12 against the spread their last 15 games. This is also the last of a 6-game homestand before a 1-game road trip out to Orlando. So a quick one, and then they head back home the next game. But this is the first leg of back-to-back games for them as well. From an injury perspective, just news came out earlier today. This morning, Garland did not participate in shoot-around and was downgraded to questionable. Typically, when there's a downgrade in the middle of the day, they don't end up playing. To me, when I was looking at this game, I was capping it to see, how do the Cavs do without him. And on the Heat side, they're going to be without Kyle Lowry again. Kevin Love is probable. From a matchup perspective, the Cavs actually lead the series 2-1. All 3 games have gone under the closing total so far this season as well. Tony, are you thinking this is another under game here, or are you looking towards the side or maybe a prop?
Well, the Heat have been a mystery for me most of the year. I still believe that they were going to be – that their skill set, despite some of the age of key players for the Heat, I thought they would again be competitive. However, as the season's gone along, they really haven't gotten healthy. Their cohesiveness is poor. They're hard to trust. When Bam is on the floor with Butler, their defensive metrics are really good. However, the metrics don't really reflect the outcome of these games. Miami, the truth is, Ronald, Miami's kind of dead to me at this point in time of the season. I don't think that they are even, postseason or not. I just don't think that they have the savvy, the heart, and that's hard for me to say because this is a Miami team that has they have a locker room that's pretty tight. Always have. They typically outplay their skill set and perform to a level that surprises the weekend warrior, not you and I, because we know what they were capable of. But Cleveland, I had Cleveland 2 nights ago in this game, -2, and they controlled. I thought they controlled the game, despite that it was close at the end most of the way. But when I looked up again at the end, Ronald, I said, are they going to hold on to this? Cleveland's gotten much better. They've gotten much better offensively, and they've won some games convincingly. Not only without Garland, but without Garland and Mitchell in the lineup. So I think, you know what I'm saying? And Mitchell doesn't help this team defensively. Let's just be honest. This is a team that hung their hat on defense. Mitchell comes over, and he comes over for a reason. They needed to be more dynamic offensively. He gives them that. And they suffer a little defensively, but if this team continues to score at the effectiveness and the efficiency that they've been scoring at in the last month, healthy, they're a player come NBA playoff time. And come late April, May, June, they are a absolute player, especially in the paint with Mobley and Allen. When those two guys are in the paint, it's tough to get to the rim on them. So yeah, I like Cleveland again tonight, like I liked them last time. And I probably would say you're just going to have to play Miami kind of as a blanket team because you never know who's playing, who's healthy. Without Lowry, they play a little faster. Ronald, if you look at their metrics, their tempo is a little faster without Lowry. However, that was last year even significantly faster, but that's when Hero was playing a lot of the point. Now he's more of that shooting guard wing, kind of wing / second guard, number 2. And if he's on, Miami's still tough to beat.
Yeah, I know. Looking at just post All-Star break, I mean, obviously, well, if we look at both of them, you talk about the metrics. Both of these teams, basically, 2 of the more slower paced teams in the league, also 2 of the better defensive rated teams in the league. And typically that's a good starting point for looking at unders, right? The biggest thing, like you mentioned, though, the Heat, they've been struggling offensively all season long. They're actually 5th worst offensive rated team in the league, and that's only above 4 teams: Hornets, Spurs, Rockets, and the Pistons. And that's not really good territory. And to think about it, their record, they're 35-32, so they do have a winning record even with an offense this bad. So that's just telling of how great their defense is as a whole. The Heat are tied for worst actually against the spread. The tied for worst against the spread team in the league with the Mavs. They're just 23-41-3 against the spread this season. That's coming from the Killer Sports database there. But if you say that they're specifically at home, they're just 9-23-2 against the spread. That's actually the worst home ATS record in the league. So a lot of things supporting your Cavs there. And then you talked about it. Without Garland, they still have the ability to get these wins here. The Cavs without Garland this season, with or without Mitchell, 10-0 straight up, 8-1-1 against the spread so far this season, averaging 116.4 per game, allowing 102.3 per game. You mentioned Mitchell not being that defensive stopper, really, that perimeter defensive stopper. But when you got trees in the back like that, it gives you the ability and the confidence to really take risks defensively because you got that support in the paint, right? So I think like solely on his own, maybe he's not a great perimeter defender, but when you have that trust in the back, when you can trust your guys in the back, it makes you a little bit better, in my opinion. Similar to how like Marcus Smart got the Defensive Player of the Year award. Obviously, he had support in the back that he can take risks and get these steals and play physical defensively. So I think that's something that has that is good for Mitchell. But like I agree with you. I don't think he's a great one-on-one defender altogether. But yeah, as a team, the Cavs are really great defensively. The ways that I was looking at this one, Tony, and maybe you could add on to this, but even though you mentioned that their defense takes a hit without Garland, I think that this game does still go under. just based on the fact that the Heat still struggle offensively. And I agree with you on the Cavs side. Do you ever mess with like team total unders? Because I feel like the Heat team total under is also in play in this one.
If you like the Cavs and you like the fact that they're going to be at least focused a little more defensively, even without Garland tonight, which they will do, I think they will do that. Then I think the Miami under is a really, really strong look and a strong lean. I mean, as long as the Cavaliers, listen, the teams crash the boards against the Cavaliers, despite Mobley and despite Allen. The Cavs have to crash the board with other teams. They only average 41.8 rebounds per game, which is 23rd. Considering the size of that front court, that's a concern for me, but not so much against this Miami team. They're not that fit. They're not the same physical team with the physicality that brought NBA Finals looks when they were playing Boston, for instance. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think you're spot on. Spot on.
Love it. I love it. All right, well, we got one game left, Tony. Raptors and the Lakers is this last one here. Raptors have lost 2 in a row now. This is the last of a 5-game road trip for them. They did play the Clippers on Wednesday, so they didn't have to travel, even though this is considered a road game here. Lakers are on a 2-game winning streak. They've actually won and covered in 6 of their last 8 games, so they're playing pretty well right now, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Tony. From an injury perspective, LeBron and Mo Bamba are still out for the Lakers. AD and D'Angelo Russell are both probable. Will Barton is probable for the Raptors. From a matchup perspective, the Raptors did take the first matchup this season, 126-113 at home as 12.5-point favorites. Lakers were on the second leg of back-to-back games. The Lakers obviously look totally different now as far as the roster makeup. Also, AD and LeBron did miss that game in Toronto. Tony, this one is interesting because you have a Raptors team that's been on the road for quite a while. And obviously, if you look back, that 12.5-point favorite situation with the Raptors winning by 13, definitely a different Lakers team this time around. Do you think the Lakers can kind of keep that hot streak or even keep the defense up against this Raptors team that's been, traveling quite a bit?
Yeah. I want to apologize. First off, I had before we do these shows, to be transparent to the audience, is, we kind of tell each other who our best bets are going to be. And I had 2 best bets. I couldn't decide. And I just mentioned that I would revisit that Washington game because I like Porzingis and with his points, rebounds, assist over. But it's not the one I gave you for the best bet of the show because there's also a prop in this game I really like. And I like the Raptors in this game tonight for several reasons. Listen, while the Lakers are playing desperate, so are the Raptors right now, as far as we're in the last 14, 15, whatever games are left for, depending on your team, depending on that and what their schedule is. The Raptors do a pretty good job of, first off, they want to get out and run. The Lakers want to get out and run. That's the way they've played. They've been successful even without without King James. And the Raptors are pretty good in transition. They do a pretty good job also against transition defense. They're long, they're lean, they're athletic. And I just think, we talked about this game at length. I did a show last night, a late show on Sirius XM Radio with Morency, with Gabe. And he's actually going to be at this game in LA, and then he's heading down to Phoenix for the WC. But back on track here is that he's a Raptors fan too. And I asked him, and he said, well, he had the Raptors over. He had a team total over, and they need to finish strong for him to win that season team total over as far as wins go. But I couldn't agree more. Listen, I really if you lean at all, I know that the Lakers are the Lakers, and I think this line's probably skewed a little bit because despite the fact that the Lakers are less than this year than expected, they still get a ton of public support at the windows, and for the most part, that makes a big difference when the books set the line. And I think the Raptors are probably 4 or 5 points better, even in LA, without the King.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the live odds page on Wagertalk or on SportsMemo, and it opened up at -1 for the Lakers, and now we're seeing 2.5 for the Raptors. So, what you're saying here, as far as the Raptors being the better team, I mean, it seems like the market is agreeing with you. The one thing that I was looking at, Tony, was actually more towards the total side, and maybe it's correlated with your play on the Raptors here. But post All-Star break, both the Lakers and the Raptors are top 10 in defensive rating. both bottom 10 in offensive rating. Raptors also play the third slowest pace in the league during that time frame, while the Lakers, like you said, they like to run in the spot. Third fastest pace in the league since post All-Star break. Even with the fast pace though, the Lakers are 6-1 to the under. Averaging 113.4 per game, allowing 110.7. That's very close to the total that we're seeing today for this game. But if we add to the fact that they're at home, they're 4-0 to the under in that spot, averaging a combined score of close to 220, keeping all four opponents in that situation under their team total. The Raptors, from a trend perspective, they're 5-3 to the under after the All-Star break, averaging a combined score of 214.4. To me, what you were talking about as far as like the pace of play, and if I think this game is going under, I feel like it's correlated with the Raptors here. I feel like it's more geared towards their style of play. So I mean, I can't go against you there on the Raptors or the Lakers, but I do think that the under might be the way to go here on this one. Any last words before we go on to the best bets for this game here, Tony?
No, I would say that for me, this is more of a coin flip. It seems like to me you're leaning to the under, more of a coin flip. Save the 146 to 112 game at Denver, that the LA game.
Yeah.
Most of these games have seen 100 or 230 or less. So that correlates with the total. Is not. I agree with you.
Like it. All right. Well, Tony, this is you've never been on the show before. This is the first time ever. So today, we typically do a best bet, and then we talk about what promos we got going on over on the Sports Memo side. So talk to the people, Tony. Tell them what you got for today's best bet on the show. Also, talk about some of the stuff you got going on over at Wagertalk.com as well.
Well, first off, the best bet will come from this Lakers Toronto at Los Angeles, the Crypto Center, and some of it has to do with the last time they played, which is quite a while ago. Actually, it was December 7th. But I'll go over who I like as a top player prop in this game and why. And as far as Wagertalk.com, listen, I really am a baseball guy. I love baseball. Grew up baseball. I'm a little bit of traditionalist, old school when it comes to baseball. But I'm excited about the season. Was the number one overall profit leader at Wagertalk. Have been in 3 of the 8 years. That 8 baseball seasons we've had at Wagertalk since we opened the doors in 2014. And for that matter, MLB is excited. I'll have some specials on MLB. I'll have my NBA up after the show. I already have my college up. It's a 2-game package with a couple more games. I'm waiting on some intel, some injury information, etc., which correlates with the game plan information I already have. But you can get those all my college day and all access all Friday college tournament package. And then again, I have one official play that I gave out earlier on Wager Talk today, Ronald, that I like this Phil. I like Maxey and Harden, what they're doing offensively for Philly since he's come back from injury. And I like, at least for tonight's game, I like what they're not doing defensively when those two are on the floor. So I like that over in that 232 or 232, 233. I think it's going to climb a little bit before all is said and done. And that you can only find me at one place, wagertalk.com, nowhere else.
Yeah, did you want to talk about that player prop?
I do. I was waiting for you to say
go ahead.
Go. Listen, back on the 7th of December, as I mentioned, Scotty Barnes had 13 points and 17 rebounds with this, basically in the meeting with this Lakers team. Now, Anthony Davis was missing from that contest, which isn't something I think people say, oh, it's an NBA game. You can't ignore that, especially what Davis is doing on the boards currently. And he's been carrying this team. When they win, a lot of it has to do with what AD has done, right? Tonight you need 22 combined points and rebounds out of a second-year forward who I really like. And I think you, as well as you probably follow Scotty Barnes. You probably follow me more than I did. You're a little bit younger than me, and I kind of tend to ignore what those guys do in college, except for the conferences I follow. But on Wednesday, Barnes had 20 points, 5 rebounds, in a loss to the Clippers. However, it's been an up-and-down season for the Raptors. It's also been an up-and-down season for Barnes, for that matter. But tonight, the Lakers aren't a top 10 team in either defensive or rebounding percentage. And I think you can probably exploit this number that's out there right now, which is 21.5. Barnes, over 21.5 points plus rebounds, and you can get about a minus 110 at DraftKings.
I like it. Yeah, you so Scotty Barnes. It's funny because I collect basketball cards or like
Yeah.
sports cards. You can kind of see it in the back right there. I have a
Mhm.
Scotty Barnes autograph sitting here somewhere.
Nice.
But yeah, so yeah, definitely a fan of what he does. I think he can get that done tonight, especially with playing against the Lakers here. For me, I'm going back to the Cavs and the Heat game. I think this one stays under once again, like they did on Wednesday. These two teams, like I mentioned earlier, two of the slower paced teams in the league, two of the better defensive teams in the league as well. These two teams have gone under in 5 of their last 6 matchups, dating back to last season, averaging a combined score of 203 points per game. Cavs 18-7 to the under this season with totals of 218 or lower. So I'm not really scared of this low total here. The Heat did open up as dogs this season for this game here, and they're 3-0 to the under, averaging a combined score of 207.4. Obviously, with the news of Garland being out, they have now switched to favorite. If I'm not mistaken, yes, they are now minus 2-point favorites. I think these two teams here struggle to combine 210 just like they did on Wednesday. To me, my best bet for today's show is the under. This is actually a client play as well. So hopefully we cash this one, and I probably will be adding 1 to 2 more plays in the NBA to by the time the game start at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So with that said, guys, this is the end of the show. I always want to make sure that you guys remember to go back to wagertalk.com to see Tony Finn, all his packages and his plays there, everything that's going on. Obviously he talked about all the sports that he does. He does MLB. He does the college basketball as well. For me, I have all my stuff over at sportsmemo.com. I do UFC, college basketball, the NBA as well. Obviously, there's a lot going on both sides here, and I can't wait for the future of what we got going on here, especially with the MLB season coming up. I know, Tony, you said that's your favorite sport, so can't wait to get that started and start doing shows with you as well there. Make sure you guys head over to those sites, man. Promos every day, packages and picks every day as well. With that said, next show will be on Monday, same time, same channel, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard. Till then, good luck with all your action. Peace.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at Wagertalk.com, and all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.